And welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm making a triple layer caramel cream cake. There are several elements to it, but it's still really easy to make and it's an absolutely fantastic cake. I hope you enjoy this. The ingredients for my cake are very simple. 2½ cups of flour, 3/4 of a cup of vegetable oil. I'm using sunflower oil today, but you can use canola oil or any vegetable oil you have will do. 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a cup of milk, 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 1½ cups of sugar. To start off, I'm going to mix all my dry ingredients together. So I'm going to take my sugar and add it to my flour. I'm then going to add my baking powder and my salt. And I'm just going to mix those together. I just want to have them well incorporated before I add them to my wet ingredients. Once my dry ingredients are mixed up, I'm going to take my wet ingredients, my eggs. I'm going to whisk them up just a little bit, just to break them up. I'm going to add my oil to that. My vanilla extract. And my milk. I'm going to whisk those up together really well. I'm just going to add half in, mix it up. And add the other half. You don't want a really thick batter. You're looking for a batter with a nice consistency to it. So if your batter seems a little thick, feel free to add a little bit of milk until you have the right consistency. You want a nice thick batter, but not one that's too thick. Pourable is good. So what I really like about this batter is that you don't need a mixer for this at all. You can just whisk it up with your wire whisk, and you can actually get a really nice cake just with your wire whisk. So this is done. I'm going to proceed to add it to my cake pan. When baking something like a triple layer, I like to bake it all as one piece. I find it's easier, it's less wasteful. I don't have to cut the tops off to ensure that I have nice flat tops. I just find it's easier, and it's far easier than having to juggle 3 pans in the oven and all that. Less cleanup too. So I've greased and floured this, as you can see. This is an 8-inch, by the way, and I'm also going to, just to make sure I get my cake out, I'm going to add a round of wax paper to the bottom there. I'm just going to place that in there. I'm going to pour my batter in. I have my oven preheating to 350. I'm just going to tap this once or twice gently to get rid of any air bubbles that might be in there. I'm going to bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes until it's golden brown on top and a toothpick comes out clean when inserted. The second element to my cake is pastry cream. It's very easy to make. I'm going to start by adding 2 cups of milk to my saucepan, 8 tablespoons of flour, 1 cup of sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 2 eggs. I'm just going to whisk those all together while cold. Just want to mix them up and get them really well incorporated. Make sure your eggs are thoroughly broken up. Once your ingredients are thoroughly mixed up, you want to set your heat to medium and bring that to a simmer and let that cook up. You want to continue to stir so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of your saucepan. Just keep stirring. It doesn't take long to cook up. It goes rather quickly. This is a flour-based pastry cream. You can use corn flour if you prefer. I like the flour one. I like the texture better. I like the flavor better. And I like the fact that I'm avoiding a corn product, which corn is in everything we eat nowadays, so I like to avoid it when I can. This is starting to cook up slightly. It's starting to smell really fantastic too, that vanilla. I also have 2 tablespoons of butter here that we'll be adding at the end. My pastry cream has thickened up nicely, and at this point I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. I just want to stir that in while it's nice and hot. This will give our pastry cream a nice gloss and a nice texture. My pastry cream is cooked, and I just want to transfer it to a bowl so that it can cool while I get everything else ready. Once my pastry cream is transferred to a bowl, I'm going to cover it and set it aside to cool. You can see this is a really great pastry cream. It's wonderful for using in layers and in cakes and all that. So I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to cover it with wax paper. You can use saran wrap if you prefer. I like the wax paper, and I'm just going to set that aside to cool. While my cake finishes baking and my pastry cream cools, I want to prepare my caramel for my caramel frosting. I found what you have to do to get a good caramel is to warm up your cream. This way, when you add the cream to the hot caramelized sugar, it doesn't crystallize and you don't get a lumpy caramel. So it's also a great way of making a caramel sauce. So what we're going to do is I have about half a cup of heavy cream, 1 tablespoon of butter, 1.5 cups of sugar. This is very simple to make, and I think you'll be really pleased with the results. I'm going to take my sugar and add it to my saucepan. And I'm not going to touch it, I'm not going to stir it, I'm not going to do anything to it, I'm just going to let it sit there and caramelize. I'm also warming up my cream at the same time. I have it on a very low flame, but I do want to keep my eye on it. I don't want to overheat it, I don't want to scald it, I just want it warm. As my sugar starts to melt up and caramelize around the edges, what I want to do is just swirl it around the pan. I don't want to stir it with any utensils, I just want to swirl it. You want to continue to melt. You can see my sugar is starting to caramelize, and again, swirl. You always want to cook this up in something a little deeper because this will boil up when we add the butter and the cream. So you always want to work with something a little deeper. I know it may seem a little too deep, but this will boil up, as I said, so to prevent it from spilling over, you want to work in something a little bit deeper. As I said, just keep swirling. Now you want to be careful not to burn it at this point. But you do want to make sure all your sugar has melted and you have a nice amber color. Once all your sugar is melted and you have a nice deep amber color, you want to add your butter. Being careful because this will boil up. You just want to stir that in. Once you've stirred that in, you want to add your cream. Just add it slowly, because as I said, this will boil up. You can also turn the heat off at this point. And there you have it, a beautiful caramel sauce. Just want to keep stirring just until that cream, I've turned the heat off, but it's still cooking on the residual heat. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous color. And what we're going to do with this now is pour it into a bowl and let it cool so we can use it as a base for our frosting. Pour that into here. This will thicken up upon cooling, so you just want to set that aside and let that cool. And my cake is ready. It looks fantastic. It smells absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to set it on a wire rack to cool before I cut it. I don't know if you can see that. My caramel sauce is ready. It came out beautifully. Look at that. We have a gorgeous, gorgeous, nice thick. This is cooled now to room temperature. It hasn't been put in the fridge yet. You can put this in a jar and keep it in the fridge. It will keep for a while, and use it over ice creams and desserts. It's wonderful to have. What I'm going to do with it today is make it into a buttercream frosting for my cake. So what I want to do is I want to take a fair amount of it and reserve it. Just set it aside because I want to add some of that gorgeous, gorgeous caramel. I want to reserve some for the top of my cake. I'm just going to take some of that and set it aside in a bowl. I'd say this is about a third of it that I'm reserving on the side. See, it has that nice texture that makes it perfect for drizzling on things. This is a wonderful caramel. So I'm going to set this aside, and now I'm going to take the rest of my caramel, give it a nice stir. And what I want to do is take my butter, since this is going to be a buttercream frosting, and what I love about this particular frosting is it's so easy to make. You don't need a mixer, you don't need to beat it, you don't need, very easy to make, very quick. And there are so many things you can use it on. I'm going to use it on my layer cake today. And I don't need that much because I am going to be using the custard, the pastry cream custard in the layers, in between the layers. And this is just going to go on the outside of my cake. So I'm going to take 1.5 sticks of butter and incorporate it and whip it into my caramel. I'm just going to use a fork for that. I'm going to take half of my butter, which has been softened to room temperature. Don't forget to soften the butter. You always want to work with a softened room temperature butter when you're making frosting. So I'm just going to work that in there with my fork. So we're going to add the rest of our butter to that. You can go ahead and use a food processor or a mixer if you like, a hand mixer. I like doing it this way. I find it's faster. I don't have to clean another machine at the end of it. And I have a lot more control over my end result. This frosting also has a beautiful color. It's a gorgeous color that you get from using the caramel. It happens very easily. It creams together very easily. And once that's all creamed together, we just want to incorporate our powdered sugar a little bit at a time. So I just added about a third of it. comes to whipping it up, you can actually use a fork. Once we've added the last of that sugar, you just want to give it a final mix and whisk. And once we're done, with that gorgeous, gorgeous buttercream frosting onto our cake. You can do so many things with this as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful frosting. It tastes absolutely fantastic. So now that this is ready, we're just going to set it aside and assemble our cake. And I'm ready to assemble my cake. As you can see, what I did was I cut the top off my cake, and I'm going to make that the bottom layer. I've gone ahead and cut the cake. All I did was cut the top off and then cut three even sections, just by running a knife around and across. Very easy to do. And what I'm going to do is use the part that I cut, the top and that I cut, for the bottom layer. So I'm going to take that bottom layer and set it on my tray. Once I've set my first layer down, I'm going to take my pastry cream. I have my pastry cream here. It came out beautiful. And this is a wonderful combination. The combination of the pastry cream custard filling, the caramel frosting, buttercream caramel frosting, and all that. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a wonderful flavor combination. So this is a nice touch. You can, of course, fill your layers with just the buttercream, but I really like doing this. It's like I said, a whole different taste experience, and it's absolutely wonderful. So I hope you give this a try. So I'm going to add half of my pastry cream here. Just try to get as close to the edges as I can without going right to them, directly to them, because I will be adding the other layer on top, and that will cause the cream to spread further. So we're not going to go all the way to the edges, but we will get mostly to the edges. And a good guide is to stop at where your cake has started to brown on the outside. So you can go that far with it. Just make sure it's level so the other layer sits nicely on that. We're going to take our second layer. Just add that right on top there. And press down a little bit. I like to press it here just a little bit of turn so that it doesn't screw around. Then we're going to add the rest of that pastry cream. As you can see, I like adding a nice thick layer in between layers. And again, don't go all the way to the edges, just as close as you can get to them. You don't want your cream scooting out. Once you have your cream on, you want to add our top layer. I'm going to use what was formerly the bottom of my cake for the top. So this way I can have a nice level top, a nice even top, and my frosting will attach nicely to that. Now at this point, you want to make sure all your layers are lined up properly. If anything's scooted out of place, this is the time to make sure that your cake is aligned properly and it's level. So, at this point, what I want to do is just take this as is, now that I have it aligned and everything level, and pop it in the fridge for like 10 minutes, just to let everything set, to let the custard and the cake layer set, and then we're going to continue frosting. My cake has sat for a few minutes, and I'm ready to finish up. So what I want to do is just take a light layer at first, and add it onto my cake. Just going to work that on there just to seal everything up. And then I'll work my way onto the sides. Again, a very thin layer. I'm not going all the way to the bottom. I'm trying to stay as far away from the bottom as I can at this point. I'm not ready to go all the way to the bottom. I just want to use everything up there. Once I have the top and the side sealed, I can add more. Once I have a nice coating of the frosting, a nice layer of the frosting on both the sides and the top, I like to take the rest of it and put it in a pastry bag and just decorate it. So once it's in, I just have my pastry bag in a cup so it's easier to fill. I'm just going to squeeze down, twist it, give it a twist, and squeeze down. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to go around the edge. I went with a simple ribbon around the edge because what I like to do is take the remainder of that caramel that we saved. Look at that, what a gorgeous, gorgeous caramel. I'm going to take some of that and we're going to add it to the top of our cake. I'm just going to swirl around. As I said, this is a wonderful combination. The three combined together, the caramel, the buttercream frosting, and the pastry cream custard filling. It's absolutely fantastic. My goal here is just to get the center of the top filled in with this, just have it come to meet the edges of the ribbon. Another way of doing it is just putting it on top and let it come down the sides a little bit. This is a nice thick caramel, and it works well that way too. So this will spread on its own, but you can help it along a little bit just by bringing it out. Bringing it out as close to the edges as you can, and that will settle in. And we're done. Came out beautifully. I'll be giving it a few moments to set so that caramel settled into place and all that, and then we'll cut it and give it a try so you can see how layers came out and all that. I've cut my first piece and I'm ready for a taste test. As you can see, once you cut it, the caramel tends to drizzle down the sides, which is perfect for me. That's why I actually do it. I love having it drizzle down the sides, and if I have a few slices that I'm going to serve at the same time, I don't have to drizzle each individual slice, which occasionally I do. You can also omit the caramel topping completely and just go with buttercream caramel frosting if you like. It's an extra dimension that I really enjoy adding. It just adds a little something to the cake. I'm just going to do a quick taste test. Absolutely delicious. Moist. The pastry cream combined, like I said, with the caramel topping and the buttercream frosting, absolutely delicious. This is a must-try cake if you ask me. I love this combination. I hope you give it a try. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time.